Good morning. Welcome to Gruber Power Hour. I'm Janie.
And I'm Nicole, bringing back the 90s.
There you go. I know.
For my brother Elvis.
Yes. So this morning, what we're going to do today is talk about the industry that we work within. We've discussed this before, but coming from prior to my years working here at Gruber Power Services, I came from the mortgage banking and finance industry 10 plus years ago. Right. And before being introduced to this company, I had no idea about the industry, what it involved, that it even existed. Did you, Nicole? Had you ever heard of UPS units before?
I did not. And fun fact, one of our suppliers was one of my customers at my previous job, and I still had no idea what it was.
So you worked with them, but you had no idea what they do.
Exactly.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. So coming in the industry, I actually, going back a little bit, I came into the company working for another one of our divisions, Gruber Communications, and working with our communication products. And then Pete came to me and said, hey, I'd like you to also work with our other division. So I went home that weekend and I just dove into our website. What do we do? What is all this stuff?
Right. There's a lot of information on there too.
Yeah, it was foreign, and thank goodness for Google in these modern days, having that technology and us having access to it so we can go, what is an uninterruptible power system? The definition of,
And then you have to Google the definition because some of it's still a little foreign.
Right, exactly. So I went in and I started Googling and started doing research and watching, YouTube videos about what is it? What does it do? And trying to learn from it. And I learned a lot about it, but not until really being involved in working in the industry did I really get a good understanding and a better understanding, of the technology and what its purposes are and, what it does. You came from shipping logistics.
I did. I was in logistics for about 16 years, I think.
Right.
So completely different. But like I said, we did ship for a couple of the larger suppliers, and we did pick up a lot of things for the larger suppliers, and I had no idea that that's what it was. And so I'd seen them in my warehouse. I'd packaged them. I'd shipped them. I'd put them on trucks, labeled them. Had no idea what it was.
Right. So we'll have friends and family come to us, and they will say, so what do you do? Where do you work at? And my go-to is, we work in the critical power industry.
Right.
And then they still look at you. What is that? So today we're going to have a guest on our show, Stephen. He's going to help introduce and talk about the technology that we work with. He is a valuable member of our team, providing technical assistance and guiding us. We do a lot of, training. We do our training, both on the job training and classroom training with our employees.
Lots of training.
Yeah, exactly. And bringing things down and spelling it out for okay, what is this? What does it do? And executing it that way. Jesse, is Stephen back there by any chance?
I do not see him yet. Let me check outside though.
He's probably working with a customer.
That could
Honestly.
be, yeah. Thank you. Yep, that's exactly what comes up.
You guys do have a comment from Pete up there, though.
Oh, fantastic. Let's see. Pete Gruber, congratulations on hitting 120,000 subscribers. People must like what you're doing. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, you guys hit 120,012 this morning. It was when I came in.
Oh,
wow.
Just over 120,000.
That's a lot of ones and twos.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you for everybody for watching. And
also, while we're talking about the subscribers, I would like to welcome Instagram to the background today. Jesse was able to get a new software in so that you guys can see the whole picture of what we're doing and not just the green screen. So welcome to our actual podcast, guys.
I know. Made a big difference.
Yes.
Advancement.
And I miss saying good morning to you guys.
I know. Your introduction
Throw me off
to
a little
the-
bit. Yes.
Yes, for sure. So the basics, a UPS system. What is it? What does it do? What it does is provides that clean, consistent, constant current to computer components at facilities. In this modern day era that we have with technology, I don't know of a company that exists or operates that they're not using computers.
No.
Not in this day and age. Every facility,
Even the ice
every
cream man
business-
is using like Apple Pay.
right.
I mean, really.
Right,
So-
right. In every facet of every industry, they're using some kind of computer system.
Exactly.
Well, you have these critical industries where their computer systems are vital to their operations.
And not only to their operations, but to the American people,
Right.
honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, whether it's a credit card processing center, they have to be up and running at all times.
To be fair, consumers would be okay if those didn't work.
Save us a lot of money.
Yes. Don't capture my sale, thanks.
Right,
Or my
right.
purchase, I guess.
But whether it be hospitals,
Right.
they have their MRI machines,
Yes.
911 centers.
Can you imagine having an MRI and the power going out and you get stuck in that little tube? Could you just
Oh,
imagine?
That'd be
Just
horrible.
for like a half a second, it gives me anxiety just thinking about
Right.
it.
They
Yeah,
actually
I've
have
had
a-
an MRI done.
They actually have a manual release. That's happened to me before.
Oh
You
my
got
gosh,
stuck?
it did?
Yeah, so I was having an anthrogram done on my shoulder, and for some reason, the power mechanism that powers the board doesn't work. So they have like a quick release that slides out so you don't get stuck in there.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, good to
Now I
know.
Now we know.
Well,
You
thank
just took my
goodness
whole
they
sales pitch away. Thanks.
right?
Sorry,
and a few
but
other
that's-
people out there too.
Right, exactly. Well, that's good to know. But
Right,
still, can you
absolutely.
imagine how getting stuck in something like that? I can't
I know.
for the life of me.
Absolutely. So we'd like to bring in Stephen. Stephen, if you could come join us. We were just talking about how vital it is to have a UPS unit backing up your computer components at your facilities. And so it'd be great to have your technical assistance providing us some more in-depth knowledge. Thank you for joining us, Stephen. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
Can you make sure that mic is unmuted? Is there a button on it?
No, I have the muted one.
Okay.
Nicole has that one. There we go. So as I was mentioning before, Stephen is part of our team. He goes out, he's with our field engineers, working on equipment, and then he's also our technical resource internally, where our sales team, if there's a situation that they
doesn't
need
go up.
assistance on, he helps them out. Oh,
Yeah, it does.
there we go. Bringing it to new heights.
He's stronger than you are, Aaron.
Yeah, it's
So thank you for joining us, Stephen. So I was just giving an elementary level explanation of why does somebody need a UPS unit to provide that clean, consistent power to computer components. Does that give a good in-depth,
Okay, so the main reason you need a UPS unit is to protect equipment from outages. Jesse, what would happen to you if I went over there and I killed your input breaker?
it would be very, very bad, especially for this show. We have a lot of equipment in here that would go down and take a very long time to restart.
Like, how long would you estimate it would take for you to restart if I just shut everything off immediately?
All the
No warning.
computers, the soundboard, the cameras, we're talking 15 minutes maybe, and then that's the whole time the show is not on the air.
What kind of damage would
Okay.
it do to your components?
It would be pretty severe, especially for the computer. We just had a issue literally, 2 days ago, Aaron, where the hard drive went out shortly after we had a power outage
Okay.
in one of our computers. Yeah, one of our editing computers.
So there we go.
So that's the reason why you would want a UPS. It's so that if you did lose power, it wouldn't be immediate. You get a warning. You give them about 10, 15 minutes to gracefully shut down his objects to avoid damage, data loss.
Fantastic. That's exactly what we were wanting to gather from the understanding of it. Yeah, absolutely. So we know the purpose now is to ensure that we have and we prevent that loss and keep that from happening by having a UPS unit. Can you give us some additional information about the differences in between like a single phase and a 3-phase?
Single phase and 3-phase is depending on the type of utility power you're using that's available on the site. That's mainly what it is.
Okay.
If you're asking for like a cost justification, single phase is more effective up to 20 kVA. Then it
Okay.
balances out with 3-phase, and then 3-phase becomes cheaper after that.
Okay. Now you said it's will different types of sites operate more often with the single phase than a 3-phase, like depending on like the industry that they are within, like the work that they do, the equipment they're supporting?
It pretty much depends on their utility feed is really what it comes down to. You could
Okay.
want a 3-phase unit, but your building only has single phase access, or you're renting a office in a building
Okay.
that only has single phase.
So you're limited to.
Yeah, you're limited by your utility feed
Okay.
is what you're getting. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, a lot of times we hear often, and when we talk to our customers about it, we have module components, and we have module units, pardon me, and component units. And one of the things that comes up frequently when we're talking to either new employees or customers, what is the difference between the two?
The modular unit is broken down to have user replaceable parts that can be done by the user. So you're talking
Okay.
about user replaceable power modules, user replaceable battery modules, user replaceable intelligence modules. Those have a higher incoming cost than a component UPS, but
Right.
they have a shorter mean time to failure. So as you condense components, they have a tendency to fail faster than a larger component UPS. But instead of paying for a service person to go out, most repairs can be done in-house by just general maintenance staff.
Okay. All right. Because they can go out and they can swap out the equipment and what's needed. at the
Relatively
time.
safe, yes.
Yes. Question for you. Now, can they do that when they're doing the swapping of it? Does the unit need to be put in bypass or anything like that when that happens?
For most units, no. Some
Okay.
units do require it. It's really depending on the size of what you're doing with.
Okay.
But most smaller units are hot swappable. So the unit can stay online. You can replace the parts.
And they can go in and do that. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, good to know. I know that's a big part of when our sales team are working with their customers and they are making a decision as to what type of equipment we're going to, provide for our customer. Those are some of the part of the evaluation of what they're going to use to decide.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really comes down to, do you want to pay a higher cost up front for your UPS, but then you have user replaceable parts? Or do you want to pay a lower cost, but then have
Right.
to pay a technician to go out and fix your equipment?
Right.
It really comes down to the customer and how they want to operate.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
How does that work with our service agreement? So are we servicing both types of units?
Yes, we are.
Okay, that's
Yes.
good information to have.
Yes, it is. It's helpful for, our customers as well.
And there are customers that we service that maybe don't feel comfortable doing that. And
Swapping it out themselves.
exactly. I would be one of those customers. I would rather pay somebody that knows what they're doing to come out and do it. So we do
Right.
have lots
Yeah.
of customers
I think
with the modules that we do still go on site. and-
go on site and do it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Claude and Elvis talked about that a while ago too, seeing the transition to more module stuff over the years.
Right. That has been happening.
Yeah, it's become kind of more of a primary thing in a lot of industries, from what I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It makes the most sense.
Well, you would see that most often, that we're selling a lot more module units.
It really depends on the industry.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to go modular, but the word modular is thrown out. There's some units that claim they're modular that are not user replaceable. So
Okay.
really, it's determined on what your definition of modular is, and my definition is user replaceable modular units.
Okay.
So for the user replaceable standpoint, yes, there's a lot more of them out there, but everybody in the industry said claims to be modular when they're, to me, not quite modular enough.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. For you're better off having a technician there to
Well, even if it is modular, you still require a technician.
use
So
require it.
you're
Okay.
getting all the downsides of having a modular unit without the upside of being able to do your own repairs.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Now, something that comes up often as we are learning about the equipment is the lifespan of the units. And I know that there's a variable in with this when you're talking about a modular unit versus a component unit, because certain parts of it get replaced over the years, and that change. The frame may be older, but the components within it are newer. But how long does a UPS typically last?
Everything has a mean time to failure on it.
Okay.
Capacitors last 5 to 7 years.
Right.
So when you're talking about a component UPS, you should really be budgeting to replace your capacitors at the 7-year mark and really want to do them at the 10-year mark. Modular units, the modules are designed to be replaced every 5 to 7 years because they contain the capacitors, they contain the fans. So you're looking at replacing the module instead of replacing just the capacitors.
Right.
But when you're talking about components that fail, as long as the OEM supports a piece of equipment, there's no reason to replace it until it becomes end of life and no longer supported.
Okay. So you hit the nose on that one. End of life. What does end of life mean in the terms that we're speaking of?
It depends on the OEM of how long they give you, but once a unit is notified as end of life, they generally support it for the next 5 to 7 years, and then it becomes end of service life, which means they will no longer service the equipment. No longer will parts be available at that point in time. So there's different types of end of life.
Right.
Just because something's noticed as end of life doesn't mean it's not going to be serviced anymore. It's whenever you get to your end of service life that a UPS is, okay, you need to replace this. The programming is no longer going to be supported. The boards are no longer going to be supported. So eventually you're going to run out of components and the unit needs to be replaced.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Now, a lot of the work and what we do here is providing support with equipment that is otherwise deemed as end of life, because the fact that we've got an array of parts supply that we're able to
Very
go out.
large parts room.
Exactly. And so we're able to support equipment that otherwise the OEM would not be able to provide parts for.
Yes, that's why I said there's a difference between end of life and end of service life.
Okay.
So
Okay.
as long as there are technicians that can still work on the programming on units, as long as there's still parts available, even though it's end of life, it's still serviceable.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Good to know. So, Nicole, what are some of the questions that you come across through your training when you're teaching the new hires and you're teaching people, about the industry and what it is and what we do? Like, what are some of the questions that come up in your class?
A lot of deer in headlights like me right now. It's because you have kind of taught me how to explain it better.
Right.
Most of the time they're like, okay, I get it. Like I understand. For the most part, they do.
Mhm.
But one of the main questions is like, does the UPS know the difference where the power is coming from? Because once the power is coming from the utility company, the UPS doesn't know where it's coming from. But if the power to go out and it comes from the generator, instead, if you were to have a generator, the UPS doesn't know the difference because it's just getting power.
Right.
And so that's one of the things they're like, well, how does the UPS know? Well, it doesn't really.
No, as long as the power source is within tolerance, the UPS will accept it and then go back to charging the batteries and go back. So it doesn't matter if it's coming from solar or generator
Or where
utility.
it's coming from.
As long as it's within the UPS's range values, it will accept it.
And a range value is what?
It's unit dependent. Some of them are as much as up to plus minus 10%.
So like the amount of power coming in.
How dirty it is.
Okay.
Okay. Now, continuing on that thought, I just lost my train of thought. It's okay. One of the questions that comes up frequently and I see as an obstacle is people understanding or knowing what equipment a UPS can support.
Oh, yes.
You know, that seems to be something that comes up frequently.
Yet again, there's different types of UPSs for different types of equipment.
Okay.
So like Jesse here is using a lot of audio equipment.
Yep.
So you couldn't put a modular unit in this room. He would get issues with his voice recording and his video.
It would cause interference on the lines, basically.
Really?
So he would
Okay.
need something with a transformer on the output of it to clean up that power so he could use it, is the main thing. So a UPS I'd recommend for Jesse is more of a component than a modular.
Sure. Okay. That
Yeah, we've
makes
actually
sense.
had that issue happen in here where see how your microphone cords are. Sometimes when Pete and Mark put their laptops up there and they have their
Right.
power supply plugged into it, causes all kinds of interference.
Okay. All right. Well, there you
Learn
go.
something every day.
That's what we do. You know, we're constantly learning and gaining knowledge from what we do and, you know, how the equipment operates. And yeah, it's just interesting to continue that conversation. Now, one of the things I was thinking about when I was saying that was that, you know, being specific in understanding for somebody, again, we're talking about somebody that is not familiar with the industry and understanding that the UPS supports computer components, not mechanical components.
Most UPSs do
Most
that. I'm saying
UPSs.
there's special UPSs you get for each type of industry.
Okay.
You don't throw
so,
a data center UPS unit into a mine.
Right.
That's a prime example. But you
Right.
can get a UPS that will back up something like a sub pump. It's just
Oh,
a
okay.
matter of what UPS you're using and all the additional parts you're using. That's really what it comes down to.
Okay. Okay.
So they're industrial, they're data center UPSs, they're home UPSs, they're office UPSs.
Oh, that's
There's different
fantastic.
models of what you use, where it needs to be used.
Okay. And we have the ability to provide those UPSs in all those different diverse industries and settings as well
Yes.
that we've been doing.
We do everything from a guy making YouTube videos in what used to be a lunchroom to mining equipment to
Yeah.
hospitals. So, like I said, there are UPSs for each type of industry. It depends on what you need.
Okay. And what it's going to support.
So one of the things we go over in class, now that I'm thinking,
yes.
that is a lot of questions from somebody new coming into the industry is the difference between the load versus the length of time,
right.
how much power it has and how long it's going to last. So basically there's between the UPS and the battery cabinet, basically. If
Yes.
you could explain that in like a
Runtime is load dependent. So the more batteries you have and the less your load is, the longer your runtime gets. Is what I'm assuming you're trying to say.
yeah, so we have to explain what the battery cabinet, what's the use of having a battery cabinet, I guess.
Well,
would
how
be
many
kind of-
batteries you have? Well, like,
Right.
where you're going with this, I understand exactly where you're going
Yeah.
with this. Is
I'm
that
trying not
if
to
you-
answer the question.
if you put 50 batteries, you know, 12-volt, 9-amp batteries in a unit, and you have 50 of them, you know, you're not going to support more of a load than if you had 25 of them in there
Right.
versus the 50.
Right.
It's just how much time you're going to get. Is that correct?
Okay, so I think you're trying to explain is the UPS capacity is the UPS capacity.
Right.
The number of
How many
batteries
things-
dictates your
Right.
runtime.
Right.
So
Right.
The number of batteries doesn't change your UPS capacity. It changes your ability to your UPS to run on battery.
So break that down in like a third grade term. A little more.
More batteries make UPS go longer. Is that better?
Mhm. And the
Yes.
other part is how many
Yeah, you
things
got
it runs.
You
Right.
got it.
How many things it runs is UPS capacity. They're two different things.
Right.
Hey, we've got another one. Pete Gruber, there are even UPSs in some traffic light cabinets which take a beating with the heat. Oh,
Especially
yes,
here.
I've heard of that. Right. When you pull up, like in the freeway to those underpasses, there are UPSs there, right?
Yes, there's UPS on underpasses. There are UPSs on lights. There are UPSs on speed trap cameras.
Which are out in the elements. And
They're
yeah.
industrial rugged UPSs, but the batteries do fail a lot faster than normal just because in places like Arizona, the temperature gets up to 130 degrees.
Right.
Batteries aren't designed to last that long. So instead of lasting 5 years, you get a year out of them.
Right, right. Now, would they be susceptible under, the same kind of situations, but in a different region, like in the cold?
Yeah, same thing. You need a heated cabin in that case if it was frozen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you need cooling in the heat and you need warm in the frozen. That's
Right, right. Because the
They
battery.
also do them in tunnels. Richard went out and filmed when he used to work here. He went out to I don't know, way out east somewhere and
Right, I
did the
remember
tunnel.
seeing that
Yeah.
I
one.
was just saying, I
Right.
think there's a video about
Yeah,
it.
we do have a YouTube video for that one as well. Yeah, it's fascinating as you learn how broad it is that these UPSs can be put in different areas, in different avenues, in different aspects, for capacity wise, what they can be used for. Interesting. Yeah, so where I was going with this was that, when we're bringing people new into the industry and when we're first getting going and starting out, it's difficult for people to understand that UPSs are not generators,
Right.
and for us being in the industry, that seems very elementary, but it's true,
Right.
When you're first getting going, there's a distinguishable difference between a UPS and between a generator. And maybe you can enlighten us, one's a mechanical component that runs off of fuel versus one being a battery.
A generator is meant for long-term power supply.
Okay.
The benefit of having a generator over UPS is that you can refill a generator. So if you do need an extended outage, 6, 10, 12 hours, you can just add diesel fuel to the gas tank to keep that generator running. You can't add batteries to a UPS while it's on battery. The
Okay.
potential will cause interruption. You just can't do it. A UPS is designed for short-term transfers from power. A generator is for long-term power outages. A
Right.
UPS ideally shouldn't be lasting more than 20, 30 minutes.
Okay.
So would a UPS be used to make the transition to a generator when power goes out?
Yes.
That's typically how it would work. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And do they have some kind? Because I know that would be probably pretty important, especially in like a hospital or possibly like military installation. Is that where we see the most of those kind of setups?
Most companies have them.
Oh, really?
Even in California,
Generators?
they have
Okay.
generators. They have ATS switches. Anything that's deemed critical that requires a long run time, if an emergency was to happen, generally has a generator with an ATS and a UPS on site.
Automatic transfer switch.
I was just going to say, could you explain ATS for the viewers,
Exactly.
please?
Exactly. What is an automatic transfer switch?
Transfers.
Exactly
Utility
what it
generator.
says. You know what's fundamentally funny, actually, and the irony behind it, as I've learned about operating and working within this industry, is a lot of the words that we use are exactly what they are. Automatic transfer switch. It's exactly what
Automatically
it says it
transfers.
is. Yeah,
It's a switch.
it is a switch that automatically transfers the power. And, it's not more complicated than what we would
It
think
literally
and
says,
expect
right.
it to be,
Exactly.
you know? Oh, here we've got another one. Pete Gruber, the function of the Dec Park Tunnel in eastern Arizona was to keep the illumination in the long tunnel operating during power outages so traffic is not affected. Oh, interesting. I didn't even think about that because, they'll be going through there and get pitch black.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't have that. I love that tunnel, by the way. When they first put it in, I drove through it I don't know how many times.
Dec
many
Park
years?
Tunnel.
Yeah.
So where is that? It's out in like Apache Junction or
It's
something?
in downtown Phoenix. When you go through
Oh, you're talking
to
about the big one down there.
yeah, when you go to the airport.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was there for the opening,
Okay.
and it was during monsoon season.
All
It
right.
had been in the summer because I was only here in the summertime, and remember it was monsoon season, and the sunset was like really beautifully strange that day. And once the sun went down, they did some things. There were some bands, and you walked up and down the tunnel, and they had like vendors.
Okay.
And then they did this big firework display, and it was like the 4th of July all over again. It was beautiful, but
Wow.
also because it was monsoon season, there was lightning behind the
wow.
fireworks. One of the best fireworks shows I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I will never forget it because it was so cool with the lightning. And that's
Oh yeah.
my whole me, my mom, my stepdad, my sister, my grandpa, we all went down together and we had
Aw.
such a great time. That's one of like my favorite memories with my mom and my grandpa.
Oh yeah.
And I had to be what, 10, 11 years old or something.
Right.
I'm
I'm
gonna have to go
talking about it
Google.
opening like it was
Right.
yesterday.
I know. I'm like, I'm gonna have to go Google and see when that was because I don't know if I really want to.
Do you remember when it was opening?
I'm from California.
Oh. Okay. Well then, it's been here all along for you.
Nah, not off the top of my head. I can't remember.
Did you have Google?
Yeah.
Working on it.
Okay.
Okay, we have Tech Titan Troll. How many departments are at Gruber?
Whoa.
Pete actually answers that later on.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Titan Roll, but UPS and generators both generate power. They do. They both generate power. But now, okay, so expand upon that. If they're both generating power to somebody
It's
with
the amount of
what's
time they generate power.
the length of time that
Length
you're
of
going to
time.
get that power in.
UPS are designed for short, intermittent power outages. They're not designed for long-term power outages. So generators are
And
for.
isn't it the type of power too about getting that clean power as well, conditioned and all of that as well from the UPS unit?
Yes, but for the main difference between generators, UPS would be the duration of the power.
Okay.
So UPSs are for small, short bursts. Generators are for long durations.
Okay.
And a lot of times the UPS is used for that time between the power goes out and the generator kicks on because there's that
That delay.
delay.
Short bursts of power.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
Wait, so
I'm just saying.
do UPSs? So UPSs are actually generating power. I thought they were just storing it and then transferring it.
Batteries store power, and then it transfers DC to AC to give you power out. That's how it works.
So it's not actually. So UPS is
You're
not
right.
generating.
That is true. And he put
Power.
both generate power.
Yes,
Right.
the
right.
generator is actually generating new power based on consuming the fuel, right?
Well,
So
it's converting. You're getting energy from fuel into electrical energy. So
Yeah.
it's the UPS is taking it from batteries, taking chemical stored energy and converting it to AC. So yes,
technically doing the same thing, yeah.
but for the mindset of it, one is for short term and one is for a longer term. That's the best way to think about it.
What if somebody wants like 10 hours of runtime on their UPS? Is that possible?
Yeah, give me
You have to have
$1 million.
like 2 rooms full
$1
of
million.
batteries, right?
You can do that. There's some places that have really long extended powers with wet cell batteries or lithium ion batteries, but the cost on having a battery bank that size is way more than a generator. Just objectively, it doesn't make much sense unless there's some city or code reason why you couldn't have a generator hook up.
Well, that's what I was thinking. One of our customers, somewhere up north, and they have a room full of wet cell batteries, for
That's
the long
generally
term.
code compliance because they can have a generator. But the cost on those is just, it's enormous. It's
Right.
way more than the cost of a generator. So
Right. Those wet cell batteries last longer too.
if you take care of
Then
them, they can
I
last up to
do.
25 years.
Right.
If you
Right.
take care of them.
You have to maintain them, and yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So, Nicole, the
Yes, sir.
answer to your question is August of 1990.
Oh dear Jesus.
August
Oh wow! Fun
1990.
facts.
I was 10. I said like 9 or 10. I was right. I was 10.
Okay.
Nicole, you are talking past your mic a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
You want to move it over?
There we
Thank
go.
you.
Pete Gruber. Gruber is comprised of 5 divisions. The team will describe. Yes, we will. We have our Gruber Power Services, which we are in discussion about now. And then we have Gruber Industries or Communication Products. And then we have Gruber Motor Company, Gruber Commercial Property, and Gruber Technical. So we do have 5 different divisions to our company. It's fun. It's interesting, as you'll see in our previous shows that we've talked about, leading up to how one division brought about the next division that brought about the next division, that all one spawned to the other.
Right. And I'm kind of confused because he said departments. So
I know.
I don't know if he meant departments or
Departments,
divisions.
we have many departments internally.
Well, just in GPS alone,
How many departments?
we have SST, the sales team.
Sales support, service operations, our
The
warehouse, the depot, the battery warehouse. We have.
I was trying to count them. So probably like 6 or 7. It
Do you have a
depends.
count in your head already, Stephen?
I get it really depends on how far you want to break that down.
Right.
Because technically our sales team has 4 different
Groups within it.
right. So
Yeah.
if you want more information, break that question down a little bit more for me, please. I'll be more
send you
than
an
happy to
org
answer
chart.
it. But I don't know exactly what your question is.
So, what is one of the most common obstacles that you encounter, Stephen, when you're working with somebody new coming into the industry, as far as the learning curve goes, or teaching them as far as understanding, technically about the UPS equipment? What's something that you come
it's just
across often?
Retention breeds memorization, so it's just a matter of reinforcing the basics over and over again. And the majority of people get them without any problems. Some people don't, but that's not very common.
Right. They're pretty good about grasping the basics and understanding what it's used for, why it's used.
So that's when they can always go to Stephen.
What's that?
That's when they can always go to Stephen if they need help.
Right.
Exactly. Well, that's where it is we have all these wonderful resources internally that we've talked about, that we've met, that we've
Right.
brought on the show, and that allow us that opportunity to make sure that we're taking care of our customers, in the right way, and getting them the good information that they need, so that way we can take care of them appropriately,
Right.
which is important. With that being said, I think we've covered the basics, understanding why we need a UPS,
Right.
ensuring that we have the UPS unit at those critical moments to cover that duration of time until a generator starts up, or another battery or another power source, whether it be the utility, the generator, or whatever it is that they have.
Numerous things, yeah.
Yeah. The UPS unit, between the single phase and the 3 phase, is dependent on the utility and what it's bringing in to allow them to operate.
What the customer needs and what they have available. Those are the main
Right.
things, yeah.
Yep.
And then, so if the building is set up for 1 phase, they could potentially have an electrician come in and upgrade for them to have a
They
3
could,
phase.
but that's very
they owned
rarely
it.
cost effective.
Okay.
When you're talking about a major building overhaul, yes, people do it, but it's very expensive.
That's the part where I'm tapped out and I go to somebody and ask questions, because that's past my
Right,
comfort
right.
zone. So
Oh, yeah. No, I totally get that. Module versus component. Again, that goes into the customers make the decision of what's going to be most beneficial for them for the long term.
Yeah, it's like I said, modular has a higher upfront cost. Components are generally cheaper, but whenever a component unit does fail, it will cost more to repair.
At that time.
But you do have a higher mean time to failure. So it's a give and take depending on how you want to look at it.
Okay.
Some people are more hands-on and they prefer to have a modular unit, and some people are, I'll just have somebody check this a couple times a year.
Right.
Get a
They don't
component
want
unit.
their people internally to touch or operate their UPS equipment. Some people have very skilled employees that have the knowledge, and they're equipped enough to be able to do that. Right. Right. And we've seen that in our diverse settings of industries we work with our
Right.
customers, for sure. And then how long a UPS will last will be based upon if it's modular or component, and when
How long the OEM will service it. is the main
exactly.
thing.
That's right. It's just a good
yeah.
Yep. And whether it's end of life or end of service life.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right, guys. Well, I wanted to go over the basics today, do a 101. Is there anything more that you'd like to add to it that you've seen with what will help teach our customers, anybody new to the industry?
I think we went over the majority of the things that I
The
would
topics that come up.
yeah, from like a consumer and knowledgeable standpoint, what I would, or even an employee,
Right.
what I would go over to kind of give them that,
The
as
basics
to
of
why.
it. Okay. Okay. Let's see what else there are with the batteries. Something that I wanted to cover as well that we hear about. the batteries. Now, you have your batteries that will be set up in a series inside of a UPS unit. Now, we also have batteries that will come and they'll be in a pack, so that way they'll have the casing as well that they come with. And we're able to provide the casings with the batteries. And can you expand upon that about?
So we reconditioned old battery module packs with new batteries and new jumpers inside of them, so they can be
Right.
reused in equipment. It is mainly what it is. That's
Okay.
so you end up with new wires, new batteries, and an old plastic case is what you end up with.
Okay.
So as long as the case itself isn't damaged,
It can
shouldn't be an
be
issue.
reutilized and used for ensuring that your unit is functioning properly and taking care of the equipment. Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to touch upon that because that comes up as well
Right.
when you're talking about
And
it.
because we do reuse the casings, we definitely always are looking for them if anybody has some they would like to call us about.
Right. That they have on site.
Right. Just
Right.
sitting around where they've maybe replaced them and it's still just there.
Right. Because we'll go up and pick those up.
Exactly.
Is there a specific
point.
type of battery that works better for the UPSs?
I was gonna say, yeah, do certain brands have to go in certain UPSs?
That's a good question.
most battery modules have UL listings for certain brands of batteries. So depending on what those batteries are, it depends on what batteries are used. Is the main thing. Do most UPSs care what batteries are in them? No. But then again, it wasn't tested with those batteries. So you get to a gray area on that.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we've covered the basics of it. That's what I wanted to do today is just get an idea of UPS equipment. I appreciate your time and you coming on with us, Stephen, to give us those explanations. As we have talked about in the past, of course, we can go into exploring. Oh, Kiki Chef. The 5 divisions are earth, air, water, fire, and electricity. That's awesome.
Oh my.
Oh, the comments are coming in. Tech Titan Troll. What is that?
It's supposed to be Kiki.
Kiki. I
Think that's Captain Planet and the Planeteers. Not bad.
okay.
That's awesome. So, Kiki is Kira.
Yes.
She and I are both Scorpios. And we're both very into the elements and the planets and the universe stuff. So
Right.
That's why I laughed because because it was from her, it just made it that much better. So
Right.
anybody that doesn't know, that's the link there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. So anyway, thank you so much for your time. We'll explore further on in the other shows what we've talked about before, and that is what we do to take care of the UPS units to ensure that we maintain them, what our service options are, and so forth. So anyways, all right. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, everybody. Thank you for chiming in, guys.
Have a good
great
weekend.
Thanks. Bye-bye.